Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another prop build. This here we're going to start is the actual Mandalorian gun, Din Djarin's handgun, and later on we'll do one on the rifle. I'm printing the parts to the rifle right now, and then all you need to do for that is actually get like a. He said you could probably use a broomstick for the actual barrel, but I might print it because a broomstick would be round all the way, where the Mandalorian's the last half of the barrel is actually hexagon. So I'm going to see if I can actually print a barrel. I'll have to make it like solid so it won't warp, but I'm thinking I'm going to try to print one because in order to get a hexagon piece of metal or wood, I don't know if that's possible, but so that's printing right now. So all the parts like that is being printed now, but I figured we'd start on this. This is fairly small kit. We got the main body of the gun. Here's the handle. These are the actual wooden parts of the handles. It came out really nice. I wonder. It's a shame they don't have a little more roundness because it would make some of the printing grain look more actually like wood grain like it does on the DL-44. So I am going to want to sand some of this because it has that metallic, has that plate look, which I like when you're doing ships. But, you know, because when it does and then it does the outer border, it kind of gives you that steel plate look. So I'm going to have to sand at least that edge. Here we got that nice wood looking kind of vibe going. But these will be the wooden parts that will go on here. But that'll give it the, you know, the look where the Mandalorian's gun has a metal piece inside and these wooden pieces are on the outer side. So we got that. There's the handle parts. And then here's the barrel, which is, this is two pieces. I already made it fit inside this piece. So that's nice. This piece here actually goes here, which is nice. It kind of gives it another plate-like look. And then over here I printed them in silver. I'll probably hit them with like some black that kind of darken them and age them. And those will go there. But this whole gun we're going to paint black. And a lot of the pictures I'm seeing, at least from the reference photos, his is more of a gun steel kind of looking gun, unlike where like Honda's a lot more black. So I think I'm going to go with a gun steel, but I want to do a black primer, and then we can just do a light gun steel, and then we'll use some rub and buff, or even the Tamiya pastels, the silver. Works pretty good on hitting the edges and getting that worn look. And then this, I wish I'd known. I kind of like, I seen a photo. It might not be Canon, but I kind of like this piece in a silverish. We'll tarnish it, but I kind of like that in a silverish look. So I might do that. If I would have known, I would have just done in silver and just hit it with the black, the ivory rub and buff. So, and then we have some brass pieces, which I went ahead and printed in brass because you hit these. Like here's the trigger. There's no real moving trigger on this one, so this will probably sit in there like this to look like, you know, you have a trigger. So what I'll do is I'll end up spray painting this black and then just taking Scotch-Brite like I did on the DL-44 and scuff it, and it'll show some of the brass through it so it looks like a, you know, a worn piece. The other pieces in brass are like, it's actually a gold, but it'll look like brass once we hit them with stuff. That goes there. And then we have a piece here that'll go across here, plus it has, oh, wrong way. It'll go across like that, plus, I wonder if it actually fits. We might have to do a little reaming with a drill. But this is the clamp that'll hold it right about somewhere right about here. And like I said, we'll hit these with a little. I think the black rub and buff would work great to give them a black tarnish. We want these to be a little more on the brassy side, where this, I want to look like it's a painted brass piece, like a trigger kind of usually gets. These will just hit a little bit with rub and buff to dirty them, to tarnish them up, so they're not like bright. Sometimes you can save yourself from actually having to paint with just printing parts like that. It works great on a Solo's gun. And what's left? Oh, the actual muzzle. And these always, the silver always comes out good. And since it printed like this, it builds with building lines like that, and it actually looks like a machined part, like where the tool machines it when this is spinning like in a lathe. So these always work good, and you just hit them with a little weathering, like a black weathering, and it completely looks like aluminum. But we can get the basics of this built so I can actually hit it with a black and then start hitting it with a gun steel. Like I could easily probably put this piece down, and it fits really well. Okay, what would be the best thing to do first? We're going to have to tack this with, I really am feeling better to use an epoxy instead of super glue. But we're probably going to have to tack with some super glue. I think I did that with my Stormtrooper helmets. This is going to be, I'm going to do a build series on this, but it's not going to be elaborate because this is the filament printed version. I have a Y-wing that I printed out in filament version. But I'm going to do this, print this in resin. So this is going to be a static one, not lit. I put the landing gear in. Actually, the way they have the landing gear on this is really well designed, where the doors and everything are all one part. It just slides right in there. So you have the landing gear doors up there as well. So that's pretty neat. But this one I'm going to kind of do my own thing, how I want, static. Don't worry about lighting up. I'm going to print this again in resin and actually make holes where we can light it. The only thing about this thing is I'm probably going to have to make this whole piece clear and try to get some holes, or I can drill holes later to make the whole console glow, kind of like the Millennium Falcon I built for D'Agostini. The whole console was that clear plastic. And then you can get the whole thing to glow, and then you can just come out here and scrape the buttons you want to glow. And it works great. But this one I kind of already had printed, and I'm like, you know what, just make this, I'm going to do my own colors. For the one that I want to do in resin, the Canon one, I'll do in that blue. This one I'm going to do in a purple stripes. It'll be a bigger stripe, a smaller stripe, a bigger one here, and then you have like almost like the X-wing thing kind of going on here and a little bit on here. All right, this we know goes down here. We'll hide that seam line right there. How well is it fitting? Need to get a little bit of filing in there, it looks like. Dry fit and everything and see how they work. Nice. It actually feels nice. Yeah, and then this will go, that will go there. So that's going to be cool. And then this goes right there. So And you, I don't know if you go all the way up. I think you only go like to here. And I believe to make it, the Mando's handgun, it's painted black. I don't know if it's from this seam. I'm going to say we're going to use that seam right there. And just paint all this front half as black. What's going to be... Well, this will be the quickest to get down. Although probably going to need to clamp that. As you know, it's plastic, especially 3D printed parts, can warp just like resin. But maybe we should get this handle on first. We'll probably attack here. And maybe right there, and the rest will hit with resin or epoxy. We'll do a little epoxy here. We'll put super glue right in that spot. Oh, no, that's right. Right now we got to make sure we get it. I did some pre-pencil marks here. You're going to be able to see them because this got to kind of sit middle. Maybe we use one of these and make sure. And of course, I grabbed the one that's not facing me. No, maybe I did have the right one. We got this going like that. So it should, yeah, this is one. So we take this here, that'll help us get our right spacing as well. But I did put pencil marks. All right, let's hurry up before that super glue sets up. I'm sure I'm not twisted because I know it was wanting to twist last time. I was trying to draw the pencil marks. You know, it'd probably be good if I get a clamp with them in there. And they'll help keep it even. There we go. There we go, like that. And then maybe one back there. That's keeping that area good. We're probably going to have a little bit of flare from the wooden part, but we can file even that if it bothers me. Should get pushed up that way good. Beautiful. Sorry if I'm off camera there, guys. I should almost raise this up higher so when I lift things up, it doesn't float out of view. There we go. So we'll keep these handles on there to give it. Hopefully they don't glue down. I don't know how much squished out. But while we got that out, that just sits right there. There we go. And just like with my prop helmets, I got other prop series that are coming go on. I got a New Hope Stormtrooper helmet, which I'm going to do a series on. I got the Phase 1 Clone Trooper. I got the Phase 2 Clone Trooper. I got Rex. Its helmet. What else I got? Kylo Ren's. Mandalorian's. I think I have a Boba Fett's too. An Iron Man. I'm not sure which Mark helmet is, if it's Mark II or Mark III. I'm not sure. I forget. What else do I have? Oh, real cool one. I have Darth Vader, but I have the real cool one is I have a Ralph McQuarrie's concept drawing helmet. The way he drew Darth Vader in his concept drawings before they actually even started shooting. I got one of those helmets. It's awesome. It's really awesome. So we'll have build series on those. I like that. That'll be. I'm doing like a little prop thing. Like I did start off with the Han Solo, the DL4. Actually, the one I built was really mine because I did a black wood handle, and I did the guns metal where Hans is actually a brown handle, and his is actually plain and painted black and scuffed. It's not a gunmetal, it's a black. And then we'll probably have a Luke Skywalker, or at least I should say it's just the Empire Strikes Back version. DL4 is different than Han's DL4. It's got a different scope. It's like a fatter scope. You see Luke using it on Bespin. And probably when he's down on Dagobah and stuff. Because they used all those props from a prop place in England. So it's an old military. So they just, for the most part, they just rented those guns, added pieces to them, and then they gave them back. And then that company takes the parts. As long as they're not permanent, they'll take them back. And, I don't know if Lucas was ever to keep and just bought any of them to keep. But yeah, it was just a prop store. Prop making place, really, and they dealt with military guns for all those military World War II movies. Because that's what the DL-44 is, anyway. I think it's a German Mauser, German gun. But we'll let this dry, and then we'll come back, and then we'll, I think we'll go for the barrel, or at least get this on. I could probably get this on now. You know what? Yeah, because I can clamp that like that. And instead of mixing this up on tape so much, just like the helmets, this is how I've been doing the helmets. Easy just to mix it right up on the part. Wasting a piece of tape. And then it's a pain in the neck, especially on a helmet, because you're just getting it. You just got to put it on like a real thin section. The walls of the helmet sometimes are only this thick, and you're trying to scoop it, and it's just so much easier to run it. What I do is put little dots, and then I'll go back with the hardener and put its dots in between. That seems to work the best. Like I said, I'm more concerned about the flushness on the bottom. I don't mind if it has a little gap. Just try to make the gaps even. But these parts do fit really nice together so far. All right, now we'll let that sit for a little bit. All right, it glued together pretty good. All that's on there. And we'll squish more epoxy in there when we glue this down, just to make sure. But I think the best way to do this, we put some in this channel. Probably could have put it on that part, it would have probably been easier. I like to keep those nozzles clean, especially when I'm doing something like this where I could be mixing them on the nozzle accidentally. Here we're going to want to make sure we really hit these edges here. But I tell you what, there were supports in here and they were fun to get out of those grooves. I'll show you once we get this on here. Probably should try this first. Here we go. Actually, that works even better when I do that because it kind of wants to clamp it. I hope we have enough epoxy in there because that's the nice thing about epoxy. You got time to really look at stuff. How is the barrel setting? And maybe what we'll do is we'll put a little tape right here. We're going to want a good pull down. It was supposed to print upright, but it kept falling. So I decided to build it laying like that. I still got a little bit of cleanup there, but I figured most of it's getting hidden. I can have it hidden downwards. We should get one more there. Yeah, but this detail here, that was fun to get the supports out of. At first, I wasn't sure if it was detail in there. Like a couple of the pieces look like they should be there. They had a complete pattern, but that usually happens with a supports anyway. But uh-oh, that came unglued. So we didn't have enough epoxy in that. Yeah, nope. Nope. It's being a little too rough. We'll have to really squirt that in there. Let's clean out the gunk. That's what I'm kind of worried about in here. I might go a little more heavier in this. We might undo this just because I saw how that popped. I might make it really oversaturated, especially when you're gluing rough edges like this. This was printed like that, so you got some rough. Let's really. I'm gonna run a rail right down there. Run one right down here and down there. I don't mind if it squishes out a little bit. It's actually fairly easy to clean up. There we go. Yeah, I feel much better about that. Because now I can see some shiny or epoxy on each side, but it's not over coming out. A little bit there, but that's not a big deal. It's probably more from me mixing. There's a little bit, like I said, while it's still not curing, you can just wipe it away. Well, I got that back glued on. That's glued on good. Took the clamps off. That's looking good. Oh yeah, that stayed on. That's much better because I see it squishing out everywhere. But again, we'll get some more resin pushed in there. Probably should do a little bit now, but we'll be careful. Well, being that we're going to paint it black, I probably should get a little bit in there now. That's a smart thing to do. There we go. Most of it looks pretty good, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Sorry if I'm out of camera because I have to bring this up to see it. I'm going to leave it heavy there so it can soak into the joint. You won't really get it shoved in there. Just let it flow in there. This side, like I said, was the biggest. So I got a big gap there to fill, and I think I'm running out again. Because I don't want to hide too much of it. I just want that big gap going. Don't want to hide too much of it because you want to make it look like it's pieced, you know, like a gun would be. You would build the gun. Make sure it's clean around here. Yeah, I'm okay with that. There we go. That made it better. Okay, so what we can do is this guy can go on now. Which fits right there, and it even has a little notch, and it has this little part to kind of ride on the barrel. So we did good job because it's fitting on there nice. That was kind of a fun diversion from all of the model building, all of the strenuous, that freaking model building. So until next week, when we will, since this is done, we need to pick another shade started on. So until then, be good. And then we can go and spray this. I think I'm going to spray it black first. Oh. Make sure we're centered. I don't think I can get a clamp to grab that. The cool blue and the white. All of this is cleanable. That's not a problem. I've got hopefully the inside is stayed protected. What I need to do now while I wait for this to dry, I gotta keep switching sides to try to pull it down tighter. We'll see if I can finish one off. But I need to cut the bottom half of this. I want to. All right. I'll let that set some. And make it so that I don't. And once we do that, we can paint those parts. Well, I got the barrel muzzle painted. We'll wait till it dries a little bit. But I made up a little makeshift thing to hold the gun up while I paint it. Just this is a pegboard for the Lazy Susan for the airbrush station. They give you these little clips on pretty much skewers. So I took two of them, did it like normal, and then took a skewer, slid it through, and I think that'll work. And it would look a lot less like. So because we're ready to, that's on there. We're ready to hit this with a black, and I'll see how I like them. And then do I want to spray a gunmetal over top of it? I don't know, or I might just with all the silver rub and buff and stuff that we're going to hit on the edges, I might just leave it black. Well, here's this side, kind of just dry fitted together. But I got to find a brown, which I think I found a couple browns for these handles. And this I'm going to do in a galvanized tin. But I want to get this barrel, I want to get the rest of this gun done in a gunmetal. I got plenty in here. I ordered some more gunmetal, but I couldn't find this. Couldn't find, it's a Folk Arts gunmetal gray. Could not find it. And when I got it, was only $1.99. But I have some Vallejo, so I'm going to try. And I got some like different ones, like a steel and oily steel, some stuff like that. But I'm going to get this over to the paint booth and get this gunmetal on. All right, got some parts painted here. Just painted these pieces gold. They were already printed in a goldish brass color, but I wanted to hit them with more gold paint to make them look a little more authentic. And then we're going to hit them with a little bit of ebony rub and buff to kind of dirty them up. kind of black them, make them look like they tarnished a little bit. First, I'm trying to pull off right away to see how well this stuff's actually sticking. I did put a clear coat, so it might pull off fairly easy. Let's see what that looks like. I kind of like that. I want a little cleaner here. Figure that's where people are going to hit it with their thumbs all the time. Yeah, I like that. Now let's try this piece. Well, this rubbing buffs are really drying quick. Sometimes it's just best just hit the whole thing really hard and then pull off what you want. I really should give it a second to dry, because I think that other one pulled off a little too quick. Let's see if we can speed it up. The biggest test is to put it on here. It's a little darker than I want it to be, but that's alright. We can still keep pulling some off, it feels like, in most of these areas. This switch here, it's pretty much stuck on pretty good. Yeah, I'm kind of liking that. Still wish I could get that a little more cleaner. A little more clean. There we go. That's the brass pieces. The trigger here, I hit with a gloss black. So what you do here, hopefully the red's not too aggressive. Just come in and hit it with Scotch-Brite, and it'll take it all off the corners and give it that worn brass trigger look. And this is a great way to do it because it's pretty much how, things would wear just accelerated. I think we can start gluing some of those down. And then we'll blacken this barrel up, and then we'll do a wash and then get some of the shinier edges put on with probably some rub and buff. I think will work the best. All right, let's get some parts glued on here. I think I got everything painted. We still got to blacken that, but I think I got everything painted. So let's go with the easiest one, which, because it has a indent, I'm going to go with a super glue instead of an epoxy, because it sets up faster. It's just that I'm going to end up cleaning it off a lot of the top surfaces here. It'll still accumulate in crease. There we go. All right, got that piece down, and then the only thing else on this side is this, which we have no registry, so we kind of got to go for it. And like put some chrome on some of these pipes. I could do that before. That I should probably use an epoxy. I can even do that as just a little indication after I rust it. The only places that really hit is that clip in here. Might call out for some color. Like I could see where you might have a red indicator. That's where the rust is going to accumulate. I'm just doing the high spots. Make sure I don't have too much because it's going to want to squirt out. All right. the best thing is to make my spot here and kind of there we go. Not bad at all. All right. Well, that's that side. Besides the handle, I'm going to paint some details on this gun too. Just set that there. Here's our next big thing. Let's get this thing on. Everything else gets put on top of it. That does, that does. Okay, let's try it. What we got here is we're going to go up against this and then down against that. That should give us the right placement. Yeah, that looks good in the galvanized tin. Make sure we didn't disturb any of these. Nope. Alright, I think we, if I got anything left, it'll work only on those. This bottle. I'm going to say that's done. Have to open the new bottle. But I think I'm just going to epoxy these because I definitely want to do that with a handle. Let me get open the new box. I got to get some thin CA too for the, I keep forgetting because we got these small things that I don't need epoxy for, but I'm going to use the epoxy on the handles. It's going to be where people are touching the most when they're looking at the gun. Oh. And I believe this is going to sit like that. Or that bend is just at the edge there. Go. Alright, and you can see there's a spot here, and that's where that sets, and it hooks over the top.
And now I'm going to attach the treads to it. Once the treads are attached, we can do our high.
I'm gonna get this one good because this one's probably something that gets snagged against all the time.
Adult coat, a flat coat. I don't believe there's any cause to put any gloss, grease, or mud.
There we go.
We can leave the flat dirt. What I want to do, again, I don't think there's any great crying need to dirty up the insides of these tracks. So little of it ends up being seen. But,
Alright, the trigger. Now the way the trigger goes is it's a little sharper here, so that's going to be up top. This is going to be a treat because try to get that in there and centered.
From the other room, and I needed to take them together temporarily because this piece,
a little more than that,
and this piece, sorry, this piece and this piece go together, and I needed to.
That is going to be the fun part.
Right orientation before and I'm just holding this insert in so you can kind of see the contrast of how everything's looking here.
Just trying to get it centered without it touching.
This smokestack here, there should be a dirtier spot right there behind that smokestack. And this is making me angry. I spent conscious time and I realized there was going to be an issue. And I consciously spent time checking and double checking to make sure I didn't screw this thing up, and I screwed it up. I made 2 identical sets of treads, and they should be making mirrored sets of treads. Drive gear here should be on that side.
There we go. I think I had it a little too up. We're looking pretty good centered. I just had a little bit too much that way.
So yeah.
And it didn't leave a mark up there. That's beautiful. That's where your finger would be. Alright, sweet. She's in there.
So we will leave it and we will make the other one match it. And to make that happen, I've got to take the line.
Like I said, I think we're going to do epoxy and then we'll tack it with some super glue for the handles.
And I've got to swap it with the other one. So no gentle way around that.
So let's get some of the epoxy in there, and then we'll tack the outsides with super glue.
Much swearing on through, and then I'll be right back.
Uh-oh. I think we did get one of these to...
I had to break this one off and spin it around because these were glued on rather tightly. But it's all fixed now, and that's the important thing.
Because sometimes on those things, especially like the helmets that I'm making, get a bead there too. You only got like a thin line to lay both of these down on.
When I find something I don't like about a model or a kit for an instruction, I am very quick to bring that up and cross about it.
Alright, now, if I do some super glue out in these corners, I would hold it together until this sets.
Now, this was in the box with the rest of the new rules paint that I've been using, but I had ignored white because white paint is problematic at best. In the true running, like Cameo gloss white, it's just a horrible, horrible paint to work with. The flat white is a little bit better, but you got to put it on in lighter coats and build them up because it's covered in one coat and the beautiful light block and all of that.
So we're going to want to get this other handle on, and then we can clamp them together.
And then I used the new color to give me my darker blues. Well, I started with these areas here that needed to be painted white. Look how smooth. I mean, dry.
Here's my super glue.
If I'm going to build my light blue back up, let's see what it looks like using the light blue. mixing a little bit of the white and of course you can maybe juice if you spin it down. I really like I get dry to the touch in a second. It goes on and it dries harder than it goes on.
Got that oiliness from the epoxy on my fingers.
That's the new world paint. I was aware of that going in. That you think it's going on watery, but you just have to leave it in and let it dry. And look at that. The olive.
Yeah, I'm liking that.
Thing on the console, you know, these have masks over them so that I can light them from the back.
Like I said, we probably should put a clamp on it, but I probably should put some stuff down. Even if I do this. Act as a padding for the teeth. Of the clamp, because I want a fairly strong clamp. Doesn't mean much. Those are sitting on pretty good. I don't know if I can get one of these that I made without breaking it. It might break. It's asking it to go a little wider than I normally. Well, maybe. There we go. Those others, the feet were not going flat. They were still trying to dig in. Now I can go through. Put a lid on that. I can go through and look for the glue that's, or the epoxy that's trying to come out. Looks like I can't get in there. How do you get it before it cures? It'll wipe away. It broke. That's asking a lot for it. Especially, I think I printed those out of PLA. I'll try this other one. The only problem is now we got more squirting out because I don't remember putting this much in there. I think we got it all. Well, good thing about it oozing out, we know it's going to be on there good, and we look nice and level everywhere. All right, we'll let that sit for a little bit. Okay, I went through and did some hitting some detail, little like a galvanized tin there and there. Did some coloring here where the hammer will hit. Some rub and buff antique gold there to give that some, just a little bit of color, just gives it a little more actual detail and scale to it. Same thing there, hit that screw. But we really had to blacken this up. Got that finally back where it should be. But I think what I'm going to do first is hit a little bit of a rub and buff on here, and then use the black rub and buff to darken this there. And I think that's really all we have to do to this. Now I was looking, and it's not overly scratched, but we'll just hit the edges on mainly all these flat parts, but we'll hit, just trying to hit edges. The barrel didn't look like really scratched up, just wear areas, think about how that's going to be. That would get probably shiny, definitely where your thumb would be to do that. So I think what I'm going to do is just use a Q-tip where it can be a little more controlled. See how it works out. I just Try just to get corners. And I'll come back with a rag and see. Think about, yeah, it's going to be a lot right there. Just pull off. Silver, this pewter is really dry compared to some of the other stuff. Ooh, that put a lot there. That's the nice thing, you can kind of buff some of that out. Feels a little too much. I think it'd be better if I put some of this on a piece of tape, so I can kind of get rid of the chunks that stick onto the Q-tip. And I can sit here. I like what I do with the, and I can keep a cap on that too. Kind of like I do when I do it with a brush. I said it doesn't need a lot, and you figure your hand's doing a lot, so there'll be a lot there. Problem I'm having is this rubbing buff. Oh, didn't want to do that. Fix that. I was wanting to dry really quick. It's almost like dry brushing. I was hoping after a couple little uses here, that it wouldn't get so dry on that tooth or Q-tip so quick. It's a piece of fuzz. Problem is there's such an inconsistency of how this is coming off. I wonder if I just go with my brush that I usually use. Might be a little wide. Yeah, it seems to be a little better because I can almost treat it like dry brushing. It's not going too bad. Said if this was less dry, I wouldn't have to keep fiddling with it. Try and make it look scratched up. Because once it gets in a certain dryness, I can really just get over everything, and that kind of works. Just kind of doing a overall hitting like that. It's just hitting high areas, so I'm liking half. That's getting better. I think we got something going on here. And the nice thing I'm finding is I can go right over to brass pieces too. It doesn't really affect them that much. It definitely gives it a more metallic look to it. Yeah, that's looking like scratchy gunmetal now. Too much there for my. Not too bad. Trying to think of areas that are going to get hit the most, like these areas, whether it's holstering it, the holster goes up, and it had some scratches going other directions too, which don't hurt. I think for these trigger holes, you just do that and it hits that. It's the edge of that trigger hole more than anything. But we definitely want a lot right here because that's where your finger goes. And the gunmetal and this silver kind of work well together. Or this pewter rubbing buff because they're not too far apart. And I know I did this here. Really? Hey, the rubbing buff does dry quick. It's definitely drying quick. I mean, it's already just a pasty, almost like an oil paint. But oils take a while, a while to. If I didn't want to do that. Now let's. There's gonna be a lot there because your hand going over. I think I'm going to be happy with that. I don't have any left. Let's try to pull some scratches in that black area. It would be good to hit a little bit on that site. Yeah, that came out good. Yeah. And that knocked down all that. Yeah. A little more wetness there. Like I said, I noticed on the picture it's not overly destroyed a gun. Just looks worn and loved, like used a lot. Now that's one thing I like about filament printing because it does those build lines actually look like you had stuff turned on a lathe. So it's really cool. Yeah. Like I said, there's not a lot. I'm even going to hit the brass areas kind of on purpose. It is kind of pulling it into, it looks more metallic. A lot of this is probably not easy for you guys to see on camera because everything's so shiny. But definitely having those knockdown shiny edges definitely pulls it into more of being like a metal. That made that look really good instead of it being just straight up black. So then what we're going to do next, that should be really all we need to do, except for clean up where I got some silver on the handle. I need a clean paper towel. Probably could just sit here and rub it right away. Yeah, it's coming. Yep, that worked. There's a good one right there, yeah. Going away with a clean rag. Looks like a well-loved gun. Blaster. That's hard as a rock. Okay. We're done with the pewter. And just that, yeah, definitely pulls it into a metal zone. Now this, I'm gonna do the ebony right over it. Doesn't matter if there's some silver in it, but I doubt it. Ebony's definitely runnier. Let's see if it works. It's gonna be a black silver. Should just probably hit the whole thing. Washes work really good for that as well. I think the solvents in this ebony just made that silver look up. Let's try to get more just. You can't really, that's the problem. You really can't mix these metal tubes because you crinkle them too much and you open the cap. It's like the old model testers model cement. It'll just come running out like mad. So that is nowhere near as pasty as, and that might just be a characteristic of the pewter. There we go. We just wanted to darken it up. But I think I'm going to do some panel line. I think that would be what would work. All right. Yeah, let's use some black panel liner in those rings. So we can just hit it and it should zip around. Oh, need that much. There, I like that. I might want to try a little more. Little more pewter there. But kind of darken it down with the black. Too much there. That's all right. Just because I felt like I lost a little bit of the. There we go. All right, I'm going to call that good enough, finished. Like I said, there's not a lot of overly damage. It's just wear marks and dirtiness. I might go over and do a wash to give it a little more evenness there, but pretty happy with that. For a quick little prop to have. But yeah, I'm glad thank you for watching it. Just something fun I figured I would do for myself, and I figured why not video it, do some prop stuff. I got his rifle. Now that I really wanted to make nice. The rifle is really cool. So the Ambar rifle. So it's all printed. We just got to start painting. And I did some things to make it more accurate as far as like which is a really cool design. They wanted you to have you can use like a broomstick, or I forget what the diameter of rod you could get, but a broomstick would work for your main barrel. But on his rifle, towards the end, it's not a round barrel after that one part where there's a wooden grip here. It changes over to a hexagon or an octagon. I forget what it is. So I actually went and just printed my own. Someone out there also has a sleeve that'll slide over the that'll actually slide over the broomstick, so you can make it that way. Someone did a little add-on to it, but I just figured I'd just print it completely solid. But I thank you for watching, and we'll sooner or later we should have one up on that Ambar rifle. What else we got coming up? I got some different Imperial rifles, the E11s and stuff like that. I want to do some certain lightsabers that I want to do as well. I'd like to get a pair of Ahsoka's when she was little, when she was Anakin's apprentice, and then the cool, more Asian style ones that she has now. But we're gonna keep doing props and lots of helmets, lots of different helmets. I got a Phase 1 Clone Trooper, a Phase 2 Clone Trooper, Rex Clone Trooper helmet, Darth Vader, of course, Stormtrooper, Scout Trooper, Tank Trooper, Beach Trooper. There's a lot of them that we'll probably be doing in the future as far as props. I figured these are kind of nice and laid back to do. We're going to do another DL-44, but the Empire Strikes Back version, which has a different scope. There is, I don't know if you ever see Han use it. I mean, he might use it in Return of the Jedi when they're on Endor. That one with the bigger, but you definitely see Luke in Empire Strikes Back. It's a DL-44, but it has that wider scope, that thicker scope. So I want to do one of those. And there's a couple other handguns that I want to do. There's a cool one on that ugly little gun that Rey does, that Han gives Rey in Force Awakens. There's what's her name from Rogue One. That's a nice gun. So, but let me get you some more kind of close-up shots here if I can. All right, but there we go. See a little more up close. It was a fun build, just something simple. Sooner or later, I'd like to actually get the metal kits that they have of these that are really nice. But these are fun just to have something hang on my wall right away. Or if you want to do cosplay and you don't want to take out an expensive prop. And it's fun to build. And the more you paint them, the more they look real. I mean, you can, this I left as colored filament just because it kind of works as an aged brass look. So it was fun. It'd be nice to actually make wooden handles too. I tried to get a little, different striping in it, so it kind of has some dark spots in it. Sometimes it's hard to see, and I could spend a lot more time sanding and puttying these things. But if you really look at a lot of Star Wars, especially from the earlier days, everything's really crunchy and chunky. It's not, especially I've seen a stormtrooper helmet, the move along guy, and that helmet is it's like horrible up close, but on film it's fun. But I thank you for watching, and until next time, see you then.